You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
This episode, I got a bunch of us here tonight with first-time guests. It should be definitely interesting. But before we introduce the guests, let's have the rejects. Let everybody know which ones we got going on here tonight. Brooke, please, from Dark Florida. Let everybody know what is up with you.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I'm excited for tonight. You can find me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast.
Awesome. And let everybody know that event you will be speaking at, please.
Yeah, so it was just announced today that Charlie's Beyond Belief Expo that's happening on October 14th in Fort Myers, Florida. I will be one of the speakers there, and the Occult Rejects will also have a booth there.
And we're both next to each other, actually. I looked. You're 32 or 33, so yeah. Should be fun.
It's going to be a really cool event. It is not going to be one you want to miss. It's only $10, so if you're in the area, make sure you're there.
Definitely. Oh, and to top it off, it's at a Masonic Lodge. So, I mean, you gotta go if you're there. So,
Lodge 56.
Yes, and you gotta visit booth 33. That's the Occult Region. So, come check us out.
That's so
you know what that was? The awesome thing about it was that, like, as you're walking in, the first booth is like against the wall, and 33 is across from the first booth. So technically, you actually see the Occult Rejects first before you walk in and see the other ones. That was another reason I was like, oh, it's in the perfect spot as well. So I got to go for 33. So, but yeah, it should be a blast. We got, Brooke next to us, and then her friend is like 2 booths down in the corner, like kind of right next to us. So we'll have a nice little area over there. Check it out. All right, Headless Giant, please let everybody know what is up.
Hey everybody, I'm the Headless Giant. You can find me on X and on Instagram and on YouTube. I've got a show on Thursdays where I go over your occult email. So if you have an occult or spiritual or paranormal incident that you want to send me, send it to the Headless Giant podcast at gmail.com and I will read it. And also I've got a show on Sundays with Ethan and Ricardo called the Trialogues. So that's a great one. Sunday mornings.
Yes. Any stories, send them to Headless and definitely check out the Trialogues. Bennett, my man. What's going on, sir?
What's up, guys? So glad to be here. You can find me at broadcastingseeds.com and at Broadcasting Seeds basically everywhere else. So
awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. Always enjoy you being here. And we got my man Tyrone. What is going on, sir? How are you?
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? So everything you can find about me is on my website, rebirthoftheword.com. You can also find my book on Amazon, Journey Through the Origins of History. Appreciate it, Nick.
Of course. And some of those events, I think Tyrone said he might be able to make them, some of them. I don't want to, I'm not putting him on the spot. So if you come, you're gonna get me and Tyrone, and on the one in Florida, you'll get all 3 of us. So yeah, definitely try to check out those events, and I will post them up. So all right. And we got Ricardo. What is going on, sir? You got to unmute yourself there.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. And because this is not an academic realm, I don't have to say doctor. I can say good evening, Brooke. Good evening, Headless. Good evening, Nick. Good evening, Bonnet. Good evening, Ron. And good evening, Tyrone, which is much, much more pleasant. So my name is Ricardo Calvario. You can find me at the that is on the screen on X. I would like to promote the Universe Unveiled podcast on YouTube and other applications. My 2 books, The Resonant Earth, that I think is relevant to Rob, and if you are interested, I can send you my book in PDF format, and Stardust, and the Institute for Natural Philosophy.org, where you can find our magazine. We are a little bit delayed this year with the magazines, but you have 2 there you can watch freely or download or whatever. So excited to be here and heard from Rob and from everyone else. Thank you, Nick, for the opportunity.
Of course. No, thank you for coming on and joining us, Ricardo. Always appreciate it. And finally, we got to the man himself. We got Robert from Flooded Temples. Robert, please let everybody know, I guess, where they can find you, and we'll get into like what your deal is and what you do. But yeah, plug anything you want people to know about, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nick, for having me on. You can only find me here on X because I'm banned from YouTube. And that's where I started off. I put 2 episodes on YouTube and got banned for spam, scam, disinformation, and tried to get back on, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not really plugging anything right at this point, just trying to get the message out there. So yeah, this is it. You can only find me here on X right now. And so
you do stream to there too, right? Just to let people know.
I do what?
You do stream to Twitter, right? Or you put videos up. I'm like,
Yeah, I put videos up on Twitter. That's right. But that's the only place you can find me right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so the question was, I guess, who am I? Sort of like just introduce myself a bit.
Sure.
Why I'm here, maybe. So yeah, basically, like I'm an electrician. I've been working a long time doing construction, mostly in industrial and commercial settings. So just building all sorts of electrical stuff. So that's what I do as a career. Then not the majority, but about half of it's been in a smelter setting. So in like mining and whatnot. Where I live here, there's some very old smelters that everybody works in at one point or another. And so anyways, when I was younger, was definitely interested in Egypt and the pyramids, like a lot of young kids, right? And I looked at them and I was amazed and thought, I think, that probably even back then they were machines or something. But of course, I grew up and stopped thinking about those things and just kind of came back to me later when I was watching a YouTube video by Jeffrey Drum, which I'm sure you guys probably already know. And so he was going through some of his theories and whatnot, and I was looking at it and I was like, oh my God, like during my times at the smelters, we're constantly going to different places to work and build and do things. And they're always telling us we have to do an in-dock, a little safety in-dock and see what we're walking into. And when you look at it, it's exactly like the pyramids. It's just a bunch of chambers with tunnels and then other chambers, and they're heating things up and depressurizing, pressurizing, cooling them down. So it kind of made a lot of sense to me. But of course, I don't know chemicals, but it really did. Like, I thought, yeah, this is probably the best, idea I've seen so far. And so he really had an effect on me. So then a little bit later, after watching some of his site visits, he talked about the obelisks and how they had the electrum on them, and they're made of granite, and then they're sitting on these beautiful red quartz blocks. And right away, I realized what I was looking at was a piezoelectric transducer that I learned about in school, or similar to anyways. And so, one example of that is that they're looking at with mom's tummy. They put it on mom's tummy, and they're shooting waves to look at the different layers of density. Another one they talked about, and that's closest, I think, to what the obelisk looks like. But another one they talked about, which I really thought was interesting, that really talks about how piezoelectricity works, that they taught us in school, was, and why they use it in one respect, was because they would park cars on it. So if you go to the dump and you're trying to find out how much your car weighs. Now, I don't know if today you're still like driving over a piece of quartz crystal, or if they change it with other piezoelectrics, because they just make kind of like computer, like fabricated piezoelectrics, I think now. But what you do is that amount of pressure that deforms that quartz will give you a very exact voltage, which tells you exactly what the weight of your car is. So they use it for that. So I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. And then anyways, with a lot of transducers, and I'm pretty sure like just the definition of a transducer is something that takes some energy, turns it into a different form of energy, right? So this is a piezoelectric transducer, and a lot of the transducers, they work in reverse. So like you'll get, if you deform crystals, this is the piezoelectric effect, you're going to get a voltage across that crystal, so quartz crystal. But if you put a voltage into a crystal, you're going to get the vibration out of that crystal. So anyways, I realized these were transducers, essentially oscillators. And what I started to do was just looking at the Egyptian temples. I didn't look at the pyramids anymore because Jeffrey Drum was on that. And it was more of a chemical thing, but I realized that like it was something maybe that I could figure out more. So anyway, so after weeks of just thinking, watching physics videos about acoustical waves, oscillators by Walter Lewin, who's like a master teacher of physics, who's all over YouTube, and trying to figure out, basically what was going on. Because I have pictures of, like you see right here, pictures of the temples all over my house here. So my wife was talking to me one day, and I think I had a moment where I realized that what I thought I saw them doing was double slit wave interference experiments in these temples. And so when I started pursuing that, that's kind of, that's what convinced me that I was onto something. And then I started looking through that, and I kind of took it from there. And then, that's where I started.
All right. Anybody want to ask?
That's Luxor right there, isn't it? I see. Behind you.
Yeah, this one is Luxor, but I mean, I was always staring at Karnak Temple. Karnak Temple was for me the most impressive. But where I had my moment, my kind of epiphany moment, I guess, was at the Temple of Seti the First.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you look around, you see the obelisks. They're always got these clamp marks on them because they've been blown apart by acoustical waves. So they're all over around the obelisk. So then I was watching another episode by Jeffrey Drum where he was looking at the Temple of Seti the First, and he was looking at these old wells. He's like, these old wells, So I was like, And then there's, he's picking up pieces with clamp marks in them and whatnot. And I noticed that where these old wells are, they perfectly these two slits, And I was like, okay, well, those aren't old wells. They're obelisks, right? And they always put the obelisks, two of them, on the sides of the, the main corridor out from the sanctuary of the temple. So I was like, no, that's where they fit in a lot of the other temples. So let's just call these obelisks. So once you put those obelisks down, from there, you can kind of see how the wave interference experiment, how they controlled it with what essentially was a waveguide. And what I found they seemed to be trying to do was to get rid of the side waves, I guess we call them for now, and just keep the prominent central maximum. I can maybe bring up a couple slides and try and show it to you, but basically they're waveguides to cavitate water, because what happens is when you have two oscillators in water, if you got the good amplitude, you're going to have those waves interfere with each other, and you're going to start to cavitate water, which is little implosions in water. It's little bubbles imploding. And so they do it today in ultrasonic cleaners, at the jewelry stores. But there's also other things they're looking to try and use it was with pulp and paper, stop using so many chemicals. They were trying to look at maybe using big oscillators, and I don't think they were actually using quartz, but they were having real problems. They weren't as good as the Egyptians at it. And another way is they do it on a very small scale, and it's a good way to sort blood platelets and blood, because you can get the blood platelets or whatever's in it to sit in the nodes where there's not as much pressure, and basically you're sorting them, and as you're moving them, and it's very easy on the blood, very low amplitude style of doing it. So they do use the technology today. So I found two papers about it. These actually two papers I just told you about, the pulp mill and the blood. And it talked about how, they do it. It's an orthogonal process, which just means perpendicular, orthogonal. And, they're trying to move things around in the fluid. And so then I started looking at Google Earth and zooming out on Google Earth, and all of a sudden you can see all these temples are orthogonically arranged. They all have a level temple at the end that's shooting sideways at it. And I don't know why. Maybe it's to turn it off. It's a break. I'm not sure, but it just all started to look a lot like that. So I started to work my way through how it would all work. And honestly, I was very confused, because when you look at if you look at Karnak Temple or any of these temples, they look like flutes almost. If you picture them as a instrument, you would picture yourself blowing at the sanctuary, right? That's the way it looks. But I'm looking at it, all the oscillators are the pyramid or the obelisks that are getting hit, right? So I was so confused for so long, and then I realized, well, no, okay, these sarcophagi, they must be oscillators too, because they're all quartz, they're piezoelectrics too. But I mean, how are they powered, right? not powered by lightning. They're all covered. Like, what are they doing? And so I realized, well, okay, you need to attract the lightning. You can't just, like, the one thing where I kind of disagree with Jeffrey Drummer, I just don't see a lot of people's, what they see when it comes to the telluric currents and how that would attract lightning. Because I would see that maybe attracting lightning to a general area, but you needed to hit your, what you want to hit in order to power your temples. So I felt like you had to make them active lightning rods, these obelisks. And the way to do that would be to charge them, just the reverse piezoelectric effect. So easy enough, you just deform the bases, you got to shoot some waves at them, and they'll get a positive charge on top, which will actually attract the lightning. And so that's when I realized that's what the sarcophagus were doing. They were basically shooting the waves at the obelisks in order to attract the lightning. And I like that theory because that theory kind of explains the dimensions of the temple a little bit better, because the temples are quite big, right? Whereas ultrasound waves are very small. It's the size doesn't really work.
Please forgive me, but if I may, why do you think that they need lightning to power these sites?
Well, the lightning would create the oscillators, the obelisk to cavitate the water, and that was the whole point, was to get cavitating water. They needed the amplitude, they needed the power of lightning.
That's why I'm asking. You don't need the power of lightning. The natural energy of the place and the natural sacred geometry type of construction, the way that sound waves rebate, the mineralogy of the materials used in itself will power the site. So I give you the example of the Osiris shaft, where is the only place that I've known and researched in terms of archaeoacoustics that doesn't require external sound. So when you look into archaeoacoustics, you find that they call it the trident of frequencies. So two of the frequencies are natural occurring. One comes from the ground. The other one is the natural resonance of the place itself. And the third one is introduced by man. So as long as you introduce these three frequencies in accord to what the dimensions of the site and its construction and its architecture is built to do, you don't need lighting at all, because they will be fully activated, as in the case of the Osiris shaft. And we know it is still activated because the water at the bottom is what science now calls, I forgot the name. So the ancients call it living water, and today is structured water. So what happens is, because of the sound, it creates hexagonal molecules, and this causes it to repel any kind of impurity. And that's how we know, because the water is pure, although it's full of debris. It's absolutely pure. Right?
This is at the Temple of Study the First, right?
No. This is a third of the way from the Sphinx to the pyramid, on the causeway, Plateau. On the Giza Plateau, on the left side of the causeway, if you're going to the pyramid. So
I know what you're talking about. Yes, sorry. I get it confused with the Osirian shaft by Temple of Study the First.
Sure,
I think. Which is similar. Maybe do you think maybe they're a similar thing? Those two, in their purpose.
Well, after my research into the Osiris shaft, and I can send you the paper that I wrote. It all seems that the sarcophagus were the function of the site would be as a healing facility, because when you compare it, the use of this structured water or living water into this sarcophagus, which I at first thought it was salt water, but I was mistaken, because salt water would be efficient, but only 15 to 20% efficient, while living water reaches 60% efficient, which means if you put someone on those sarcophagus with that sound therapy working through the piezoelectric effect, because the sound itself, as it reaches a constant standing wave, will cause the piezoelectric effect by pressure of sound alone. So when compared to natural means of treating a broken leg, for instance, the time of recovery inside of this sarcophagus with just, well, I call it stone boxes. Sarcophagus is a misleading name. Inside of these stone boxes, with just 1 to 2 hours a day of treatment would be 60% faster than by the means that we use today, right?
Yeah.
The only way to put it the same is if you go to a very advanced clinic that is using ultrasound as treatment also, that recreates more or less the same. It's not as efficient as this ancient site is, but it's very close compared to what natural medicine or current medicine will do. So just to finish my point, what I mean is you have, for instance, are you aware of the Tarxian temples in Malta?
No.
Okay, so the Tarxian temples is 666 feet away from the Al Saflieni. What's the name?
Number is 666.
I can't remember what the name of the
600.
of the chamber is, but well, it's the Al Saflieni. And so what happens is that the zone has multiple faults. These faults cause microseismic activity that then is amplified by the water that then creates these reverberations on the site. So when you go into these orthostats, these vertical stones that lead you to the main chamber of this Tarxian temple, although there is no ceiling, the site is still active. And they find it is still active because by accident, they decided to put the hand close to one of these semicircle holes that these orthostats have all the way through the corridor. And it was still working as a subwoofer. You can feel the power of the energy. It just doesn't have the ceiling to contain that energy inside and create the standing waves, and then therefore whatever is the functionality that you are trying to obtain from the site. And I'm sorry I talked too long. I just wanted to point out that I don't think you need lightning to activate it. Although I admit that, for instance, on the bottom of the Osiris shaft, there were 4 pillars that we have all reason to suppose that, like the obelisk, they will have the top in electron material, as you so well said. So I think that the bottom level would be a serious trauma treatment, right? And so the fact that they call it Osiris, and Osiris needed serious trauma treating, according to the legend, it would be the place where he would be taken for a recuperation from that kind of trauma.
Well, that's interesting. You know, like I don't discount any ideas, and I do believe in healing for frequency. I mean, I don't listen to the radio. I just listen to frequencies when I drive around. So, but as far as like...
this is just one of the functionalities. There are many others. I just used the example that is directed possibly to healing. It can be many different things, long distance communication, storage of information. It can be lots of things. It all depends on the functionality you activate.
Right. So in my functionality could exist, I guess, then?
Yeah, and that is?
To cavitate the water.
I think that happens constantly in every site, because in order for these sites
to work, but I feel they were flooded with water, and the water they were flooded with was cavitating, but now they're not filled with water anymore.
Well, the old temple by the pyramids still is, or it wasn't and now is, for instance. And perhaps that's why it's not active. But it depends on the site and the functionality. Right? Okay. So for instance, I believe that the end of the megalithic age, where these megalithic sites were active, the previous to this type of Egypt constructions, of course, it was exactly the flood that happened around 4000 BC, that because there was so much water above the land, the electricity expanded and it spread through there, and the megaliths lost their power. So, and that opened to a very succession of events, including the destruction of 96% of the male, the end of the megalithic age and the start of the copper age, and so on and so on. But
yeah, I definitely believe in a big flood for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting. Definitely send me your information. I'd like to read it. You know, I've just been following my own theory by looking at the form and the material that they used. You know, I just keep looking at how they built it and what material they used, and you know, there was a time when I asked Grok, and Grok gave me a very low score. It's like 0.0000 chance. So that's a waveguide there, buddy. But it's been getting a little bit better, and I, you know, I think the one thing that Grok really kept pointing at to me, which I really liked when I was hammering her with the questions, was she said amplitude. You need amplitude. You need a lot of power, and so I with those sarcophagi you're talking about, the boxes, for a while there too, I thought, maybe this is chanting. Maybe it's these are being activated just by water, sound waves from water within the structure.
It is essential. The water is essential.
Just one second though. No, water is essential. Totally. Like I'm flooded temples, right? But they said, they kept saying amplitude. And so that was my big crutch, is because I was like, well, what kind of amplitude? Like, what else can we use? And I was thinking, nuclear power? Like, come on, right? Like, that's a stretch, right? But that's what I start to research, or that's the next thing I Googled. And sure enough, it exists already. They've been using it to send spaceships through space. And so I was like, well, maybe that's it. Maybe the ancient Egyptians actually had nuclear power too. So I think inside those sarcophagi were very, very well-fitted radiotope piezoelectric generators. And I can show you a picture of that if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Share it. Okay.
I'm
trying to share things. This will be the first sharing. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, sir.
But anyways, this is just a picture I got offline of a real thing they do today, or make today. It's a radiostope piezoelectric generator. And I'll just describe how it works first. So basically you just have some nuclear material in the middle and it's decaying. So the ions, the electrons, I don't know what ons are coming off of it, but they're going up and they're collecting on a cantilever, a metal cantilever. And so as they collect on this, can you see my hand? Oh, okay, there. As we collect, it starts to like bend, magnetize towards the material. And once it gets very close, it'll spark out and go back up. So basically this just keeps happening. And so the way they use it today is when this cantilever keeps popping, the piezoelectric material, the crystal that it's attached to, deforms, and the charge that you get across it, they use as a battery, and they power their spacecraft, and it's a battery that'll last a long, long time. And so I figured, if they have this sort of thing today, oh no, it's not there. Maybe they had it in the past. So it's this guy. I've got my giant pointer. Oh, it didn't get very big.
Yeah, you know what? It's not even up on the share screen anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
forget this sharing screen then. I don't think
So sorry. Well, if you want, I mean, you can pull it. You can click on the share screen again and go through the whole thing again. It's
no,
all
like I'm stuck now. I can't even see all my other controls. Like I gotta somehow get this thing closed down.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
all right. We'll continue if you want.
Now. Sorry, guys.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll say what I wanted to say. It's interesting y'all was talking about lightning, because I think Brooke was in one of these discussions when we were talking about lightning and how lightning can help with agriculture. And because when lightning strikes the ground, it releases nitrogen, which goes into the sky, and then when it rains, it brings it back down, which gives fertilizer to the plants. We know Egypt was a very fertile piece of land. Some people will even consider it the Garden of Eden of some sort. Then another thing that's interesting is that the stones there, I was just looking this up because one of you guys, I can't remember which one you sparked my interest in looking this up, you or Ricardo, but I looked up, can granite stones help with plants grow? And what I found out is this, yes, granite stones are actually used to help plants grow. When they break down naturally and when it rains and stuff like that, it releases potassium around. And so the land that's around that, the plants actually helps it grow. Well, one of you also then mentioned Osiris. Well, guess what? Osiris is a fertility god, right? He's a vegetation god, right? He's the Lord of vegetation. So all that right there that you guys were just talking about just makes sense to me on a level of understanding what possibly the ancient Egyptians were trying to describe with, their way of agriculture, because I didn't even know about the granite thing until I looked it up, and that's actually...
Tyrone, if you look for the plain of jars that is in Asia, that's archaeologists don't know what the jars are for. These are huge jars that are in a position that connects them to the mother rock. And what is absolutely correct scientifically, if they put the seeds inside these jars before they put it to the ground, the rate of production can increase up to 60%. because they are enriched within these jars by the energy of these jars, right? That has all to do with piezoelectricity and the granite itself and the crystal matrix within the mineral. So agriculture is always connected to this, and I'm sure that Rob knows about electroculture. So that uses also energy captured by the ether or the atmosphere, as you want to call it, and put it into the ground that makes it a lot more fertile.
Yeah, I use copper rods for my raspberries, and they're ridiculous. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I mean, I have this raspberry patch that's absolutely insane, and I have a copper rod in the ground on either end of it, and it is, they've doubled in size, and it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, they used to say that back in the day in America, we used to have copper water pipes, and that was supposed to be to help with the cleansing of the water and stuff. And then when they switched, they started noticing different things happening.
Sure.
So, copper has always been something where it's been purified water.
And possibly it was the tools for agriculture from the Indians that created the gardens and so on, that like poverty points. For instance, they were using copper tools to work the land, because in the 19th century, when they started looking at the electroculture, they found out if they also tilled the ground with copper tools, it also increases the yield of the crop. So
one thing,
because you're mixing up, natural elements together that's supposed to help each other. Copper is good for the earth, for the planet, so you're mixing it with it. You're not spiking it with something that's toxic. It's like the same thing when you put into your body. You put a can of sugar in your body might not react to it like it's supposed to react to it. It might make different people do different things, but it's not natural, right? But now if you get, natural sugar, it'll probably be different. It's always that chemical, it's always that little difference in the chemicals that's within our bodies. So, yeah.
So one thing I would say about it, I don't know much about electroculture, but I want to look into it. But plasma activated water, so plasma lightning, right? Activated water. A lot of universities are looking at it all today, trying to build these plasma activated machines and test it, because you're absolutely right. Like Tyrone, like you were saying, when plasma hits water, you end up with long-lasting and not so long-lasting nitrates in that water. And like Jeffrey Drum also had said, like plants love it. Nitrates is fertilizer too, right? So if lightning storm water is better than regular water, from what I hear.
Have you ever been to Karnak, Robert?
I would love to go to Karnak.
Oh,
I've never left Canada except for Mexico.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Karnak is ridiculous. I lived in Egypt for a year, so
wow.
I've been to most of these places, and when you're there in person, it's just the immensity of it is ridiculous. So
I think Karnak, as far as the Egyptian temples, had the most going on as far as their technology. When you look at the obelisks, they had obelisks there that were just regular shooting out in the water, but they had other ones that were pumping to the sides. The obelisks that are closest to the sanctuary, they were being charged from the sarcophagi in the sanctuary through these little windows you can see. But then when you look at the other side of them, it was further down where the water was, and they blow their sound waves out to the sides and back towards the back of the whole place. Yeah. My theory is that Luxor, I don't know, a lot of people think that everything's built at different times, and I can get down with that, because these temples can work standalone as far as I'm concerned. But my theory is, and if you watch my videos, you'll see it, that the water came in from Luxor because it's upstream, and it just came down the Avenue of Sphinxes and worked its way into the Karnak temple through the 10th pylons and through, and then dumped back into the river.
Like, people don't understand, this place it's like 200 acres.
Yeah, it's huge.
Temples and just whatever. And Rodney brought up the part about with Osiris, but there's also the temple of, and I think I always say it's Mut, M-U-T, Mut, yeah. Mut. And she is a fertility god as well, Rodney. Just saying. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few fertility gods, but it's just amazing that the most natural stuff is always what enhances our abilities for most things.
Yeah.
enhancing our food and stuff like that when we use the proper tools. I was just talking to somebody about how obsidian surgical tools are better than the regular tools that they use today. And there's a lot of people that want to go back to that, and that's just a natural thing. So it's just amazing that the natural stuff is what helps us the most.
Well, and when you bring up copper, using copper cups can aid in killing bacteria and digestion and have so many other good benefits when used correctly like that.
I mean, pool cleaners have been using it for years, right? To keep algae out of the water. So I'm just saying. I mean, go ahead.
No, you're right. It's just amazing that copper had, like, our water system used to be nothing but copper.
Yeah.
You know, and then we switched from it. You know, why are we switching from things that are good for us? That makes you wonder, you know.
They wanted us to drink the lead, man.
Yeah. And the fluoride.
Yeah, fluoride.
Yeah, but the copper for us to use for cooking and for drinking is also not healthy in a prolonged use.
Yeah.
That's why the indigenous people, they used to go every 2 years to this special place where they tinned I don't know if it is tin, but they put, I think it's tin, but I'm not sure. The guy would make, sorry?
I was going to ask you if cast iron pots are good for you, because you seem to know, because I've been told by my wife that if you cook in cast iron pots, it's good for you. It's the best type of pot to use.
Well, it was used for at least 400 to 600 years after copper became too expensive, and it didn't show to have the same counter effects that copper has with prolonged use. But I'm sure that it also has something that adds to your food, right? But
yeah, anything's a poison in the right dose.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it depends on the cast iron, because people then can put things in the iron to make it, to extend it, to make it more profitable, instead of using the right amount or thinner or not properly temperate. So it depends on many things. But yes, I think it's safer. Basically, that's my answer.
So, Robert, I wanted to ask, besides the, I guess, the pyramids, there was two other places that you had kind of like theorized.
Yeah.
And this is all based on, again, why don't you explain that you think that these places were actually flooded with water as well? I mean, maybe you mentioned it earlier, but maybe get into that a little bit more and then go into how you think that this is with the next one, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit about my next episode. I said I was going to go to the Allora Caves, right? Mm-hmm. And so the Allora Caves, the thing that interested me so much about the Allora Caves is like you go there, and the first thing you do is you go to Kailasa Temple, or Kailasa, because it's amazing, right? And you look all over that place and you're just amazed, and you look at the lingam and it's amazing. And then you realize there's these other caves. You go look at them and they don't look like Kailasa. They look kind of like the inside of the Egyptian temples, almost. Parts of them do. And then you also see, other parts of them look a lot like thick pylon walls. So to me, I just thought, okay, well, maybe these are waveguides. And I was like, well, we got to figure out how they're going to attract the lightning. And so I figured out, I think, how they did that, because it's different than in Egypt. But basically, why they would be doing it, I guess, well, they would, it's mining, right? I believe either they're adding a crushed slurry to the water so that they can blast it, with lots of gold and whatever in it, or they're just taking the runoff from the Nile. Back then was so full of gold that they just take the runoff straight in and start blasting it. And so when you look at Kailasa, you'll see that, not Kailasa, but the Allora Caves, you'll see there was two drainages. One drainage fed a bunch of the tunnels, or the caves, and then another one fed the others and Kailasa, and you can see how they were fed in. The water was fed in, especially Kailasa has got a huge pipe going into it to another temple up top. And so like they were managing the water big time. And then you look at Kailasa too, I've heard people say that the drainage inside of the temple is like oversized. Like it's ridiculous how quickly they could drain the water out of the thing. So, and then it all just dumps off a big cliff, and whatever water they don't use, it's all being funneled off the side, off this beautiful lip that they made where it just goes off the cliff. And from that source, they have these scoop marks, bringing it into each one of the temples. So so I'm going to look at those temples and just kind of talk about maybe how I think they were attracting the lightning and some of the differences. And then I'm going to go look at I'm going to go look at the lingam, and that is going to be that's going to tie into Shintoism as well. But and it's a totally different technology, but it's not. I'm not going to talk about it today because we only got like 7 episodes maybe in me, so I'm going to save that for those episodes. But I think it's a totally different technology, and I think they're making something different, something the guy below me will love.
Nice.
I just wanted to hop. Oh, go ahead.
No, go, sir.
I wanted to hop in real quick. Have you ever heard of the 4th phase of water?
No, I've never heard of that. No.
If you check it out, it's a book by this guy named Gerald Pollack. He also put out several videos about it as well, so you can find those on YouTube. But he's talking about the electrical potentials that exist within water itself, based around how it interacts with certain objects, and these effects are charged by things like light. So if you're talking about charging with all that energy, you could be changing the electrical potential and doing all sorts of stuff with the water using this 4th phase.
Right. I'd be interested to learn, to read the book. I haven't done too much research, like except for the line that I followed. But like one thing I did watch on the Plasma channel, I'm a fan of the Plasma channels. He made I think it was like just a big spark, a very high voltage spark by just using cups of water, because water without salt, conducts really well electricity, right? And water, pure water doesn't. And so he took a cup with salt water in a cup without salt water and lined them all up, got a bunch of straws, and then put like real, like not light, but electricity in it, and build a huge gap. So like you can use water as either a conductor or an insulator. And but yeah, I'd be interested to read your book. But one of this just brings up something that I remembered from another episode that I'd watched on YouTube. I'll stop saying the guy's name. But at the top of the Shinto temples, they used to have these little things right before you get to the standing stone, and it's just a thing full of salt. And it said for to avoid the bad spirits here, maybe throw some of this salt on top of you. And of course, if you were going up to some place that was going to get hit by lightning, that would be a great idea, because what's going to happen is that electricity is going to go through the water and the salt and hopefully avoid you. And so I just thought that was interesting that they had a big thing of salt at the top there. Anyway.
Is there
sorry, let me just recapitulate this. You said that water without salt is more conductive?
No, water with salt is conductive.
Oh,
water,
okay. I misunderstood you. Thank you.
Oh, he might have actually said that backwards, actually, because I thought he said the same thing, and I was like,
I might have said it backwards for sure.
And I was like, I don't think he meant to say it like that. So I heard that too, Ricardo.
Yeah, but it's without salt, it's not conductive at all, really. Well,
that's why they call it electrolyte, because it conducts as well.
Yeah.
So
right, yeah. So anyways,
Ashish was talking about that. Remember,
hints everywhere, especially in Shinto. There's hints everywhere. It's crazy, They got little lightning bolts everywhere.
Also, there's electroseparation. When you're talking about putting electrodes into the water, it starts to separate into oxygen and hydrogen, and that becomes fuel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I worked at a smelter there. That's a little different, but like the anodes and the cathodes. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of processes, yeah, for sure. Water's found at all these temples. That's the one thing I've noticed that other people have noticed. And, all the temples have a water source near them, seems like.
Now, how high up do you think it was actually needed to be filled up to?
The temples?
Yeah.
So that's a very good question. Yeah. Like I'm always like, I want to take a laser level down to Karnak so bad. And just stick it on every wall. But like, I feel like they were up to the level of the base of the obelisk. So like basically to tune an obelisk, you have to change the mass over piezo, and the piezo is is the block on the bottom, the quartz. The mass is the granite. It's the granite spike. To change the mass over piezo, all you do is you take the electrum and you bring it down. So what I think they did is just they painted all the electrum, and you see on the obelisk in the corners, it's kind of flat, on the corners. I think they painted down the corners, and that's how they actually got to the right frequency, because you actually have to have the right frequency, just the count of oscillations for both the obelisks. And where was I going? What was the question again?
About how high you thought the water was filled.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you're talking about.
Okay, so I think the water was pretty much right at the height of the quartz blocks, maybe just a touch below it. But there's enough like quartz even in the granite that like it should charge the electrum on top. So the interesting thing to me is like, are they above the lids of the sarcophagi? Because like the sarcophagi have beautiful lids, but are they watertight? I don't know. Well, the one at the Karnak, it looks like it has its lid on it in the sanctuary, but it almost looks like it's fused on there, and there's a hole punched in it, right? But all the other sarcophagi, I see they have these beautiful lids that you can pull on and off. So I don't know. Like I would think that they wouldn't want. I think the water level would be different if you were like saying some of the bigger shafts that have sarcophagi down in the bottom of them. I would assume the water was all the way filled up. But then in the flooded temples, the outdoor temples, I think it was probably about 6 feet high, 5-6 feet.
Okay, in your defense, the bottom level, the stone box that is at the bottom level of the Osiris shaft is the only one that has the water to the level of the lid. So the whole box is surrounded by water. Only the lid stands above the water.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
So
yeah.
and it's clearly the one that has the most dramatic effect is that one at the bottom. So and also the 4 pillars, the 4 small obelisks around it, that to me had some
Ricardo,
kind of conductivity between them for sure.
I really like the water though, because like you said, it has a better effect maybe because ultrasound needs water. I mean, it doesn't really work through air, and that's why when they put that thing on mom's tummy, they'll put some gel on there. You can't have an air gap. And so my feeling is like even today, if you went and you hugged one of those obelisks and it got hit by lightning, because you are water and you're dense, it would blow you and cavitate the hell out of you. But if you're standing this far off of it, you wouldn't notice nothing. So I feel like the water is essential in ultrasound, so that's why I put it there,
And do you think
the transducers had to be in water?
Do you think that if you take the water that you see on the surface and because I would immediately, I had to look into it, I would immediately agree with you if I see that there is a walkway through the water to get to the sanctum.
Yeah.
And we don't see that, right? It's all at the same level.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the water level. Well, yeah, like I would love to go to Egypt to see it for myself, because that's the one thing I'm not 100% sure of because I haven't been there. But from what I've seen, they're all built where they expand from the sanctuary out. So they expand sideways, but they also expand up and down. So I would assume the water level would get deeper as you went away from the sanctuary.
Sure, but it still forced the priests to walk into the water.
Right. Okay. Sure. I don't think anybody would want to be in that water personally, though.
Sure. That's my only point resistance here. But I would like to suggest you to look, because every single site that works through Acoustics has these simple rules. They are all built in a river bend. They all have fractures underneath the ground or faults. They all have underground water levels, all of them. If you go and look in all of those temples you're talking about, they all have an underground water level. So, and I think that water level is enough for what you are seeking. You don't need to actually flood the temples, but it's just my suggestion. I might be wrong, of course, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I would just like you to consider it in the future. It might be the solution to that conundrum that people would have to walk into the water, because you're not talking about moats around it or some areas flooded. right? You're talking about flooding the temple with up to 6 feet.
But the moat around it too, like I picture the wall around Karnak being flooded too. So like the
sure, and that I agree. Yes, it would have water. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely look into it. Yeah, thank you. I'll look at it. I'll look at the recording and get the information because I didn't write it down.
Oh, I send it to you at X. Don't worry, I'll send you the things. No worries.
So was there any other, because I know before, like when you were getting into, I think you pretty much covered it already though. The whole thing with the obelisk was like a while ago when we first started talking. You kind of really got stopped and you didn't go any farther. Was there something that like you left out that we never even got to? Was there anything that we missed?
About the obelisk?
Well, yeah, and just Egypt. Anything that you left out about Egypt that you were talking about?
Egypt. Okay, well, yeah, so I'll tell you just a little bit more about the theory, which was the last episode, which was, in factories, a lot of the time you got to, and especially with an instrument, you got to tune it, but you have to calibrate new pieces that you're putting into a factory. So I feel like they probably calibrated the sarcophagi, the RPGs as I could call them, but I don't know. I just have some pretty far-fetched ideas how they did that. But one thing I do know they had to do is they absolutely had to control the water temperature, because if they were going to keep that sarcophagi in resonance with that chamber, you would have to make sure that the water temperature stayed pretty close to the same temperature, because speed of sound changes when the temperature of the water changes. So I go through in my episode 4 and I show you, kind of try to explain it the best I can why they had to do that. Whereas with the obelisk, it didn't matter because they were a certain frequency. The water temperature around them is going to be the same as the one next to it, so it doesn't matter. But the sarcophagi does matter. They would have to have made sure the water temperature was good so that those waves kept going the same speed. Otherwise, they wouldn't. It wouldn't charge the obelisk. So picture it just like a trumpet. If you're blowing the wrong on a trumpet, it's not working. And but if you got the right resonant, the right frequency for that chamber, then all of a sudden you hear it. It hits and it's the right. So I know they had to do that, and basically my idea is maybe it was just by listening to it. It was tuning forks. They could hear that frequency change because it could be anything. I think it's probably the statues. I think were vibrating, and I think that they maybe had onks. Like the onks is the closest thing I could find that looks like a tuning fork that would work as a tuning fork in Egypt.
Have you considered those large water bowls or basins, small water basins that are large? But when I mean small, they're not building size, but they have I don't know in inches, but it's from almost 2 meters wide, so it's larger than my arm stretch, a little bit.
Where
larger.
Are they?
In the Giza Plateau. There are lots of them that no one knows what they're for. In my perspective, they are kinetic devices. So when you have structured water, it becomes like a little bit like a gel. So the kinetic effects are much visible because the water is denser. So you'll see better the effects of the vibration of the place itself on these basins of water, and you can use that to tune. I say this because although Egypt is not my specialty, if I have any, is that in every single megalithic site that I found that had a functionality or several, they all had a basin of water placed on top of a bare ground, meaning connected to the bedrock, so that the frequency that was being emitted, the combination of the trident of frequencies is the better way to explain it, would provoke vibrations into the bedrock and into the water, and they would see in that water if they are having the correct frequency for the desired functionality. That's why outside of these temples you see all these spirals and all these kinetic images carved into the rocks that I think are the keys to the functionalities of the sites themselves.
Like New Grange and those old stone sites.
Yeah, West Kennet Long Barrow. That is the only place in all academic research where a portal was opened by the introduction of the third sound into a site.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, those are some strange mounds. Like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
It's wild.
It's exciting because there's so much to learn. So much has been hidden from us.
In terms of have you, when I'm listening to your theory, I was wondering, were they looking, if you were right, were they looking not specifically for what you're mentioning, but perhaps or additionally to magnetize it? And I'll tell you why. Because, for instance, the Olmec would collect stone to do those gigantic heads that the Olmec has, and even the small statues and small figurines. They select stone that had been hit by lightning. Why? Because it magnetized the stone. So today we can go to an Olmec head or an Olmec figurine and you find that is magnetized and it has poles. They knew how to carve the rock in order to put the magnetic lines exactly as they want to, right? For instance, in this turtle head, they found that the magnetics of the turtle head are exactly the same as the human brain. And this is academic studies, not woo-woo. They wonder how they knew these things. So they have something to detect magnetism, and they knew how to orientate it, even in the stone, by carving the stone in a specific way. Stone that was hit by lightning.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about lightning, I wonder, were they trying to magnetize the sites?
Well, honestly, what I think is there's two ways to attract lightning today that they sell on the market. And they're the coolest looking things. I'm not going to share my screen anymore, but they're called active lightning rods, and they work on two principles. One's the piezoelectric effect, like I just described, and it puts a positive charge on it so it gets hit. The other one's magnetism, and they make it today. So they're doing it today to attract the lightning, but I don't know if they're trying to magnetize things with the lightning. So I'm not sure. But
my question is, if in your schematics of the functionalities as you see it, do you think that magnetizing the structure would have any benefit? That's what I'm asking.
The lightning. They magnetized. They created a magnetized system. Like I should understand magnetism better as an electrician because I learned a lot about it. But it's complicated, and like I believe in Shinto. They were using magnetism. No, you see, I think they were using magnetism sometimes to attract lightning with the way they positioned rocks, but I'm not too sure. With Shinto, there's way too many bells for them to be trying to magnetize to get lightning. I think it was acoustics as well. But I can't figure out with the Shinto temples how they did attract the lightning. I can't do it with the Indian temples. I think I do know with Egypt and with the Allora caves how they did it. But I always feel like with my view is the ancient technology was always using the lightning for one of two things. One thing I've already told you, cavitating water. The other one is I'll tell soon. But in order to do those two things, they always had to attract the lightning. You couldn't just rely on lightning hitting anywhere. And the way they attracted it was either through magnetism or through piezoelectrics.
Do you think it would be visible, considering the energy that you are putting into the system and the obelisks and the fact that the top of the obelisks are covered in this highly conductive material that, funny enough, the Egyptians call electrum? Yeah. That is a mixture of silver, gold, and something else that we don't exactly know what it was. Do you think that will be visible some like rays of ionized electrified air on top of them when the site was active? Because the way you're speaking of energy. So,
because I think, like me as an electrician, I always got to make sure the wires are big enough, right? And to catch lightning, I actually don't need too big of a wire. And when it gets hit, yeah, you can actually see some scarring on it. So I think you would see scarring maybe on the electrum, which has probably been poached. But I think if they were doing it properly, that transducer is designed, the size and everything, to use that amplitude, use that power so that it won't cook. You know, it'll be the right size that it sends all that energy into the water to cavitate it.
No, what I ask you, if we would be able to see some of the air ionized and electrified in small rays of lightning, small lightning coming from the top of the obelisk, right?
Like corona effect.
Corona? Something like that, yes.
Yeah, corona, like I don't understand, you know, like you go to electrical school and they'll just tell you that's PFM if you start asking questions. You guys know what PFM is?
Nope.
Pure fucking magic. Because they don't know either. So like ball lightning, that was one of those pure fucking magic ones. And then, so like corona, you know, I know like supposedly it's supposed to show before a lightning strike. But I don't know too much about it. I honestly think there's a lot to learn about free energy. I actually believe it's probably a thing, and that's something that was drilled into me that you should not believe this. But the ether, like I don't know how it would work. Like I hope, but like I'm not even trying to tackle it. I'm just trying to figure out these few things.
Well,
Nick, would I see the corona? Yeah, I think you'd see it before it hit. Maybe you'd see a corona before the lightning hit.
Because Nick had a guest that I had the privilege to hear, and he spoke about argon and these boxes of argon.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it would be very interesting for you to get in touch with that, because I think you can also add that to your, because these boxes, I'm not the best person to talk about, but they can even charge current devices just by what they are. They are not connected to anything. Right? It's just the way they are built. They have the ability to charge or decharge elements. So they could also create this kind of electricity that you're looking for. And it's called argon. So if you look into it, it's
argon. Okay, yeah, I'll look up argon. Yeah, I know
argon boxes.
Argon boxes. Okay. Yeah.
That's just interesting. Was there anything else like? What do you got? Can you put out a teaser of what you're working on next?
I thought I already did.
Yeah, you kind of did actually. Yeah. So,
well, that's it. Like I said, like I don't have many ideas. I just want to put 3 more videos out, and then I want somebody to be like, I want somebody to get an AI program, because I'm sure they exist, and you can do, because it's heavy math, but they can just take the dimensions of this temple, the slits, and the wells that City of the First, and they would know if it's true. They could prove me wrong or right quite easily with a computer program, I'm sure. So I'm hoping but I've been hoping this the whole time. I thought when I first figured this out, I would tell the guy next to me and he would believe me and be like, oh my God, you're onto something, man. And then it would just take off, right? But it hasn't happened that way. So I'm hoping eventually, because I truly believe like this has got to be what it was, that some acoustical engineer with a computer program will throw that temple in there and they'll be able to prove it, that it's definitely could have happened. But for me, next is just try to prove people I'm not crazy. I just don't want my kids think I'm crazy. Everybody else around here. So I'm going to put out 2 more videos, and then I'm probably going to try and go back to my regular life, Yeah, like I love Egypt. I love all this. I'd love to go travel now and just see all these temples. That would be my dream, just to go see all the temples, especially like India's temples are beautiful. The sculpturing is amazing. I would love to go to India and see Kailash. I would love to go. My wife is Japanese, so I've seen the temples in Japan a bit, but go back there. That's my plan, is to retire and travel finally. Not go to Mexico or Las Vegas.
there you go.
Yeah.
I do have a question, and I just want to know, like, what is the main purpose? Like when you was researching this, what is the main purpose that this is to either help us? Why is it important for us to know? Like, what is the main reason why? That's a
very good question, Tyrone, because that was my dilemma when I got banned from YouTube. I was asking myself, what's the main purpose? Why do I care? Like YouTube was not sending me messages. People would send me messages and I wouldn't get them. I kind of figured out by going on my kid's account, and it was creepy as hell. And I was like, well, why am I doing this? This is just like driving my wife nuts, And what I realized is if I didn't tell people what I thought I knew, I would be a coward.
Well said. All right.
Well, there are no wrong ideas, just additions to what we know. So
I'm really good at making my wife nuts too, just so you know.
Well, that's the funny thing is she's just in there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at the wall of this temple. And I'm like, oh, honey, fuck, I think, and it's just like, oh, I've had enough of this guy. But yeah, but we always make it work. She could probably hear me in the other room. Thank God for my wife.
Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say or ask before we wrap it up?
So I still can't get past that. I think this was for agricultural needs. I don't know exactly what it is that could prove that you're right or that you're wrong or anything. But when I'm listening to this lightning and listening to, the stones and all this other stuff and how fertile the land was and, how agriculture was very important. And, Ricardo did mention another fertility god, and there's many of them in Egypt. It's just that I just wanted to know what was like the main reason why.
Tyrone, don't forget that the Russians in the 70s and the Americans about 2 or 3 years ago, and I can send you the papers, their studies of the pyramids show that by just what they are in terms of physical construction, they had the right conditions to create a unique atmospheric condition above the pyramids. And if there is humidity that there isn't now, it causes rain. So if humidity could be brought on top of the pyramids, it would rain because the pyramids have that effect on the atmosphere by the way that they were built. It's not a common to all other pyramids. This is from the Giza Plateau. I cannot speak for the others because they're not tested for that. But in this case, you have 2 studies that show that they create electric field, and that electric field causes humidity to cause rain. So if there was an area that that was much more humid than it is today, that area would receive a lot more rain than the surrounding countries or faraway lands, because it is an effect of the pyramid. So it is agricultural. Either they build it for that reason or not. It does cause rain.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because that's the first modified weather machine. Think about it. We talk about how we're using, cloud seeding and all this other stuff of today, but that could have been literally the first modified weather machine.
Yeah,
I mean, if going off of what you say, at least, Ricardo.
Yeah,
I believe the same thing, and I think Jeffrey Drum talked about it too, because a lot of those chemicals they were making are just for the same sort of things you'd have for agriculture, fertilizer. Like the plant I work at, the smelter, one of their biggest things they sell is the is it potash? I forget what it is. But
it's potash.
Yeah, well, I forget. Anyway, they build all sorts of stuff. You'd be surprised what they make at these smelters. But yeah, so like that's fertility. But the other fertility you might be talking about, I believe that absolutely as well, like the medicine version of it, and that's the teaser.
Mm.
I got something for you guys. I want to show you because I always like to show sources for every time I talk about something when somebody talks about whatever the subject is. So I have the hard copy somewhere. I don't know where the hard copy is.
And you have read a book or two, Tyrone. So
yeah. So I have this book from Ken Goodswood right here. It's called A Pyramid Tech. It's the physics, chemistry, and argo-economics of the ancient people. And I have this show on my on my YouTube where it's called What I've Learned from Reading This Book, and it's just basically I just pick a book and take some of the important things that I found interesting in there, and I'll read about it. When you was talking about these chemical plants and these pyramids and stuff, in his book he actually says to basically summarize, the pyramids were used as chemical processing plants, and the Sept pyramid was used for methane generation from organic matter. The red pyramid uses methane to synthesize aqueous ammonia. The bent pyramid was processes ammonia into ammonium bicarbonate. Great Pyramid produces dilute sulfuric acid. The Central Pyramid combines sulfuric acid and salt to create hydrochloric acid. And the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, of course, they have their own little chemicals. But he just talks about these pyramids were basically some type of chemical processing plant. And when I was reading this book, because it's so interesting in what you say, it all seems like it was for agricultural needs. Now, this might have been the most archaic way on how to, sustain a group of individuals with food and stuff. So, I mean, and then you can't forget, Nick, we had that discussion with Ashish. Remember when you asked that question earlier about how high the water was on the pyramids? Remember, Ashish actually explained how high it had to be for certain reasons.
Yeah, I do remember him bringing that up. Yeah, what's interesting? You mentioned sulfuric acid. Yeah. That was in a weather modification patent that I went over with a long time ago. Where they would bring up like in a weather balloon, and they would mix certain part of bones. It was the weirdest thing. You can read it on the patent. If I don't know, or I just talked about it on the episode I did, where they're like mixing sulfuric acid and bone together, and like whatever that is, like releases into something, and then it's part. Mixing that together is part of the whole weather modification. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how'd you come up with mixing sulfuric acid, bone, and other shit? Like,
Hey,
Can it be just
getting rid of some
any
bodies.
bones?
like
Not human bones.
Getting rid of some bodies.
very weird.
That's dark.
I swear to God, I read it on. Yeah, I read it when we
It's
covered
like,
it. I was just
like an episode of Breaking Bad or something.
I was like, or is there like a different, like, I don't know, different chemical and the substitute was bone this time? I don't know.
I mean,
You went back and said, "Did I read it right?"
Yeah, no, that's why I covered that one. I was like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. Sulfuric acid and bone.
This subject, it always sends me. I've kind of, I gotta dive into it now though. Like, is the fact with all these old temple complexes, how they literally like look like a semiconductor from the air, and that there is something obviously to all of this, right? With resonance, frequency, electricity. I mean, but then you go to like the spiritual side of that too, and it's all energy and resonance, consciousness. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is the place where those things meet, right? And so I gotta dig deep into it now.
Hey Nick, it's funny you was talking about bones, because the reason why I like this Kindle also is because when you're reading a book and somebody says something, you can type that word in and it'll find everything within that.
Oh yeah, yes.
Pretty awesome.
When I had a
You're
Kindle,
right.
yeah,
It's great.
So when you was talking about bone, it literally says right here that a bit further south in the Amazon basin, a lost civilization developed a highly effective fertilization technique by mixing charcoal, fish, and animal bones broken into pottery, compost, and manure with natural soil to greatly increase its fertility and form what is now termed terra preta.
Terra preta, yeah, that's a whole episode on itself right there.
So look, hey, Bennett already on it. So hey, it's just crazy that some of this stuff has, like I said, I think all this goes back to agriculture.
Yeah, well, we can. Yeah, the whole Amazon is a whole thing, man. The Terra Preta, and how probably the Amazon was just a giant garden. So either way,
yeah, it was the Garden of Eden on this side of the earth.
right.
There was many Garden of Edens. You know,
Yeah.
even in Mesopotamia, there was many Garden of Edens. I know a lot of people say they don't know where the Garden of Eden is, or they don't say it in the Bible, but it definitely does. I mean, hell, the Sumerians said it a lot. The Akkadians said it a lot. Everybody had their own Garden of Eden because it was their place where everything natural was supposed to be. What's crazy is I just got done reading the Kama Sutra, and they have their Garden of Eden. And that's where they do all their stuff at, is in the Garden of Eden. So it's amazing that you have, you know, these relationships with all these religions and mythologies and stuff like that, that it goes back to the Garden of Eden, that life, what brings people life, you know?
Yeah.
Robert, was there anything else you'd like to add or say, or do you want to promote yourself again, or people, or tell people where they can find you on Twitter?
Yeah, just type in my name, Robert Measures, and Flooded Temples, and check out episode number 4. It's probably the best one, and yeah, just look forward to maybe 2 more episodes where I get into fertility.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out, my man. Thank you very much. And everybody,
Thank you guys for having me. I
for
really
sure.
appreciate it.
Oh, no,
It's the
for
first
sure.
place I've been invited to. I really appreciate it.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Holy crap.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. So, thank you very much.
Trailblazers.
Yeah, right. Before I wrap it up, we'll have the. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead. Did you want to say something? Did you say?
I was
I
doing my
fucked
sign off. All the best, guys. That's my sign off.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I got nothing left to say. That's it. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
No, cool. No, that was a great talk. Thank you very much. And we'll have everybody else. Brooke, again, let everybody know where they can find you, please.
Yes, thank you so much. I love hearing all of these theories. It was a fantastic presentation, so thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast, and also on YouTube at Dark Florida.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. And Tyrone.
What's going on? Everything is going to be good today because you know what? I learned something, like they always say, you learn something new every day. And today I learned something new. I actually learned something of something that I've read. So I appreciate you letting me go back and reference what the bones was that Nick was talking about. But everything you can find on me is on rebirthoftheword.com. And my book is on Amazon, Journey Through the Origins of History. Also, you got to get Ricardo's book, Your Resident Earth. I like that book. We're going to do discussions on his second book coming up.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us, man. I always appreciate it, sir. And Ricardo, what is up, sir?
So once more, was a pleasure, Rob. So thank you very much. It's always good to have something to add to our own ideas. So thank you. And you can find me at X at what is on the screen at Ricard Calvary Way 1. Go and check the Universe Unveiled podcast and check out my books, The Resonant Earth and Stardust. And Nick, thank you very much. Oh, and tune in on Sundays, since the Headless is not here. Tune in on Sundays for our trialogues, which it's just improvised conversation between three people with different interests. So thank you, Nick, for the opportunity, and thank you all.
Of course. No, thank you for joining us. Definitely check out that trialogue. And we got Bennett, my man.
Rob, thank you very much. As usual, I roll off with a whole page of notes to drive my wife crazy with when I'm like, hey, check this out. You can find me at broadcastingseeds.com or I'm on YouTube and wherever all podcasts are aired.
Awesome. And thank you very much for joining us as well. Before we wrap it up, I will promote it again. And for Brooke, Charlie's Beyond Belief at Fort Myers in Florida. She'll be speaking, and the Occult Rejects will have a table there. And just real quick, because I just want to get used to mentioning it. September 26th to 27th, I think it's the 27th, be at Mount Airy in Georgia as well at a Bigfoot event. October 4th in Franklin, North Carolina as well. October 26th in Greenville, South Carolina, and November 22nd in Mooresville, North Carolina, and December 6th will be in Mount Airy, Georgia again. As I get more dates, I get closer to the dates and actually have the addresses, I'll list that in the show notes, but those are supposed dates that we'll have booths at. So if you're in those areas, come check us out. Like I said, Tyrone will probably be there as many as he can. So it should be fun, man. Thank you all again. And thank you, Robert. I really appreciate you coming on. And definitely keep an eye out for his last few episodes until he calls it quits. So thank you very much, my man.
I might sell some hats. I don't know, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, fuck it. So sell some cowboy hats with flooded temple on the front of it. There you go. It's a bucket hat, flooded temple. I don't know. All right, so
it seemed like what everyone's doing. I grew a personality real quick when this all started. It used to just be my wife that put things on walls, but yeah. But thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yes, and until the next one, everybody be well. Later.
All the best.